I hate what's become of the Baker Mayfield redemption season. And I'm just going to put my hand up right here. I feel like I'm walking into some kind of support group, and I walk in and I get up to speak, and I've got coffee, and I say, "Hi, my name is Kyle, and I'm a Baker Mayfield fan. I'm sorry." And then I'll go, "Oh," and then I just start talking about why and how. And I do like Baker Mayfield. Sometimes you have an athlete that, for whatever reason, you just root for him. You know, I'm not a Panthers fan. I have no connection to Carolina. I have no connection to Cleveland. I have no connection to the colleges he played at. Nothing. I just remember him coming out, and I thought that was incredible what Baker did. That's when I first started really liking him. Remember, this is the draft, the same draft as Josh Allen. And there was all this talk about who to take, and there was a lot of quarterbacks in that draft. And Baker kind of just willed himself to be the number one pick. It was like he ran the perfect campaign, because he was not going to be the guy for a long time. Remember, this was Sam Darnold. He was the USC Golden Boy who played that incredible season 2 years prior and was the prince that was promised. He was the one. And then you had Josh Rosen, who was the most pro-ready. So we go with Rosen from UCLA. And then you had Josh, who was really appealing, but had so many question marks, and people were scared about the program that he played in. And then you had Lamar. Lamar, who had all kinds of draft discussion, up to and including him changing his position. He wouldn't run a 40. So there was a lot of mystery with Lamar, too. He fell all the way to the back of the first round. But then there was Baker. He was just kind of sitting there. Well, he's kind of short. Yeah, but he won the Heisman. He's got an arm. And from the time that combine season started to the time we got to the draft, which was in Texas, at Jerry World, he just ran the perfect campaign. He said the right things. He had the right hype. He did the right deal. He did himself. He did a shirtless photo with a white tiger before Tiger King, and he was the number one pick in the draft. And he showed up, and he finally won a game for the Browns. And he was cool, and he was fresh, and he was bold, and he didn't apologize for anything. And the Browns fire Hugh Jackson, and Baker comes out and is mouthing him on the sideline because remember he was an assistant on the opponent, and then Baker comes out afterwards, and I was like, I like this guy. He's got like a little Favre to him. He's cocksure is the word, and he's bold, and I just really liked him. I liked the way he played. And so it didn't work out in Cleveland, and they made this crazy decision to go with Deshaun Watson. So the second he got to Carolina, I'm like, this is how it's going to work. Matt Rule's been waiting for this guy, because Matt Rule's another guy I root for. Cool personality, cool background. And I just got all mouthy and said, you know what? Screw it. I think Tom Brady and the Bucs are going to kind of fall asleep this year in the South, or fall apart. I don't like anybody else. I think the Panthers are going to win the NFC South, and Baker's going to be for real. If Baker loses this game this weekend, they're playing San Francisco. San Francisco has the best defense in the league. If they lose this game, and especially if they lose it bad, I don't know if Baker's going to ever start a game in the NFL again. I mean that. They may bench him for anybody. He's just, last week against the Cardinals, you don't see games played by a professional quarterback that are much more ineffective than he was. It was crazy. It was like a rock bottom thing. So Baker's been in some huge games. He's been in a couple playoff games. He played the Chiefs in the playoffs. He beat the Steelers in the playoffs. Obviously massive college games. This is one of the biggest games of his life. Panthers, Niners, week 5. They're home too. They're at Carolina. So if the Niners are doing what they did to the Rams last week, and Baker gets smoked and throws a pick 6 and is fumbling, they're just going to get the hell booed out of him. He's probably going to get benched. It's just nuts. And it's like this whole Baker thing is going to be over. Then you're going to say, can he get a backup job? Can he leave? Is he going to retire? Just remember, 2 years ago, this guy was saving Cleveland, and he's in these really legitimately funny commercials, some of them. And he was cool, and he was fresh, and he was leading the news. It was Baker this, Baker that, and it's just all falling apart. And you look at what Lamar's done since then. You look at what Josh has done since then. Darnold and Rosen are different stories. But in that same draft class, I just liked Baker. And it almost feels, I don't know why I like him other than I like the confidence and I like the content from Baker. I work in places like this where I got to talk about people. And, you know, sometimes they're not that interesting. Baker's very interesting. You may hate Baker. You may like him. You may feel indifferent. He's interesting. He's very interesting. Guy who's the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He was unwanted out of high school, reviled sometimes in college, and I almost look at Baker like a politician, or someone that for some reason just has this cult of personality that, at least for me, I don't know about you, you're just drawn to them, and you can't totally explain why. But when he was doing the college thing, that was as if this politician, he was a senator or a governor or a smaller end politician. And then he made this meteoric rise to the #1 overall pick in a class loaded with quarterbacks. And all of a sudden, oh my God, he gets the big job. He's president. And then he gets there and he kind of does some cool, fresh things and he wins you over. And you're like, yes, this is my guy. And I wear the hat and I wear the shirt or whatever. And then it just kind of falls apart. And you're like, but I still like them. And I like their charisma. And I like the way they speak. And I get caught up in that. Where what really matters is, what are they doing? What are they getting past? What change are they making? How are they leading? It's not been great. With Carolina, it's been absolutely awful. If you were to rank the quarterbacks in the NFL right now, based on their performance this year, he's not in the top 35. And because you put guys like Bridgewater ahead of him, anybody. It's just been really, really rough. So this political candidate, who I'm not even a political person. I'm just not wired that way, to be fired up by politics. But for whatever reason, somewhere back in his early campaigns, I just fell for Baker Mayfield and started voting for him, and I liked him, and now it's just all falling apart. So, look, the way that goes with Baker, you see these memes, sometimes they'll do the cycle, where I don't know the step-by-step of the one that I've seen, but it's always like, Baker, nobody thinks he's good, plays inferior opponent, wins. Next step is like, has something to say about his critics, has proven critics wrong. Next one, plays terrible. And then it goes back to, gets to inferior opponent. So the thing is, this is not an inferior opponent. He's playing the Niners, like the real Niners, not the Trey Lance experimental Niners, like the Garoppolo Niners. So in the normal way of Baker being a survivor, he wins this game this weekend. But I don't see anybody picking him to do it. And it's all over. I mean, I honestly mean, if he doesn't play well this weekend and gets hammered, I think you have to bench him. Because Matt Rule, very likely I think probably the most likely to get replaced in the middle of the season. They had a 9-game losing streak before they won a couple of weeks ago. And now they lost again. If they lose this one, it's probably over. And it's like the impeachment of Baker Mayfield, and they finally found him, and it's going to be done, and he has to step down. And I don't know. I liked him. I'll root for him if football doesn't work out. I like him as a guy. I like that he's into his wife, and he brings her in the commercials. I just think it's cool. I don't know what's about it. I'm not from the South. I spent 5 minutes in Oklahoma my whole life, but I'm rooting for Baker this weekend. It's going to be tough sledding, but I hate that it's gone this badly, because you know what? It's bleeping interesting when what if Baker Mayfield was 4-1 after this week and the Panthers were a thing? I like it. You might not. I don't care. That's my guy.